I never expected a regular afternoon Walmart run to be the thing that kept me up for nights after. It was June, and I'd just wrapped up a long day of remote work, bouncing between meetings, laundry, and emails from my son's summer camp coordinator. We needed groceries. Basic stuff like milk, cereal, and sandwich bread. So, around 4:30 p.m., I grabbed my keys, told my 9-year-old son Carter to throw on his sneakers, and we headed to the Walmart off Elliott Road in Tempe. Carter loves coming with me because I let him browse the toy section while I speed walk through everything else. He's obsessed with Nerf stuff. Guns, darts, tactical vests, even those dumb goggles he insists are for accuracy. As usual, I told him he could look but not ask for anything, and he promised again that he wouldn't bug me for a new blaster. The toy aisle was midway through the store, not far from stationery and school supplies. I was only 2 aisles over, checking out notebooks for back-to-school deals. We weren't even going to need those for 2 months, but I was trying to be proactive. Everything felt normal. For a while. I remember looking over the top of the aisle display and seeing Carter crouched near the bottom shelf, looking at a clearance box of Nerf darts. There was a man at the other end of the aisle, mid-40s, thin build, gray shirt tucked into faded jeans. Ball cap. I noticed him because he wasn't doing much, just standing there holding a plastic dinosaur. No cart, no basket, just there. He looked up when I looked over, made eye contact, then immediately turned his head and walked to the next aisle over. Didn't seem like much at first, just a guy looking around. I kept browsing. A couple minutes later, I circled back to check on Carter, and that same man was on the other side of the aisle again, this time pretending to examine RC cars. Still no cart. Still alone. I didn't like it. I casually told Carter to wrap it up and that I'd finish the rest of the list with him. We started toward the groceries. I looked back, and there he was. Keeping his distance, but there. Trailing. Carter was talking about some Fortnite-themed Nerf thing, and I was half listening, half scanning. We turned down the cereal aisle, and when we got to the end, the man passed by the other side. Still no items. Still watching. I acted like I forgot something and doubled back through frozen foods. Sure enough, he showed up again, hovering near the microwavable meals, empty-handed. I put my hand on Carter's shoulder and whispered, "Stay close to me, okay?" He gave me a look but nodded. He knows me well enough to tell when I mean it. I pushed the cart faster, heading towards self-checkout. I kept checking behind us, but he didn't follow through the metal detectors. I thought we were done. We paid, bagged our groceries, and stepped outside into the still blazing sun. Arizona's summer heat is relentless, even late in the day. Our car was parked 3 rows down. I was juggling the bags, trying to find my key fob, when Carter asked, "Is that guy from inside?" I looked up, and there he was. Crouched down between 2 cars in the next row over, directly across from ours, pretending to tie his shoe but looking up. No bag, no cart, just watching. It wasn't subtle. I didn't say anything, just clicked the fob, popped the trunk, and ushered Carter inside quickly. Then I paused, told him I forgot something. I turned around and walked straight back into the store. I didn't look back until I was through the sliding doors. Once inside, I stopped by the cart corral, turned slowly, and looked out through the glass. The man had stood up. He wasn't tying his shoe anymore. He was just standing, facing my car, hands in his pockets, like he was waiting for something. I went to customer service. I wasn't even sure what to say at first. Someone followed me through the store, and now they're out by my car. The woman behind the counter got a manager, who called for security. By the time the three of us walked back to the front entrance, the man was gone. He didn't get in a car, at least not one we could identify. Security checked cameras and said they'd flagged the incident, but there wasn't much they could do. I filed a police report, not because anything happened, but because it almost did. That's what really got to me. That waiting. The fact that he never shopped, never bought anything, never said a word. Just mirrored us aisle by aisle, and then waited outside near our car like it was part of his routine. Like this wasn't his first time. I installed a dash cam the next day. Not because I thought it would stop someone, but because I wanted proof if anything ever did happen. I stopped letting Carter wander the toy aisles alone, even in stores I know, even in daylight. Now he stays next to me. Always. He asked once, a week later, why I made him do that now. I told him because I didn't like the way that man was looking at you. And I didn't. It wasn't curiosity. It wasn't harmless. It was like he was waiting for the moment I looked away. The store was full. It was the middle of the afternoon. Broad daylight. But that man followed us through like he'd done it before. Like he knew exactly how long he could go, unnoticed. My daughter Ruby and I were doing a back-to-school run at the Walmart on NW 13th Street. I figured we'd beat the rush by going early in July. Less chaos, fewer people fighting over notebooks and glue sticks. She was 7 at the time, smart, curious, always asking questions about everything. That kind of bright energy that makes you worry a little more as a parent. We'd already hit the basics: folders, markers, pencils. I needed to double-check binder sizes, and Ruby asked if she could go look at the dolls, which were just a couple aisles over. I said yes, but reminded her, like I always do, you stay in that aisle. I'm just over here. If anyone talks to you and it's not me or a worker, you come get me. She nodded and ran off, already naming dolls in her head. It started out like a normal day, but that didn't last. I wasn't more than 2 minutes into comparing binders when I heard her voice. Not scared or anything, just talking. Then I heard another voice, a man's. I froze and stepped to the end of the aisle where I could see around the corner. Ruby was standing with her back to me, and just a few feet from her was a man. Late 40s maybe. Short-sleeved collared shirt, cargo pants, baseball cap. He was smiling. Not wide or creepy. Just like he belonged there. Like he knew her. He pointed toward the back of the store and said something I couldn't catch. I stepped around the corner fully and walked toward them. I heard the rest as I got closer. They've got a whole shelf of free toys back there, if you know where to look. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a scene. I just walked right up, put my hand gently on Ruby's shoulder and said, "Hey, sweetheart, do we know this man?" Ruby looked up, confused, and said no. The man's smile didn't even twitch. He stepped back half a step, put his palms up slightly, and said, "Oh, just being friendly. She was talking about dolls. I told her they've got clearance bins in the back." "Do you work here?" I asked. He shook his head, still smiling. "Nah, just doing my own shopping." Then he turned and walked away. Calm, normal pace. Like nothing had happened. I told Ruby to stay with me, and we followed him. He didn't go to electronics, didn't browse clothes. He walked past outdoor gear, past men's shoes, then past seasonal, and then just exited the store. No cart, no bag, no receipt. He didn't look around, he didn't run, just walked out into the heat like he had a reason to be somewhere. I stared at the sliding doors for a second, heart hammering against logic. Then I went to customer service. I explained everything. The conversation, the way he pointed, how he didn't buy anything. The woman at the counter looked concerned, called over a manager, and asked if I'd describe him. I did. They checked with the security desk, but the guy wasn't a regular. No one recognized the description. Security reviewed camera footage, or at least that's what they said. They didn't find anything out of the ordinary. I filled out a quick statement and left my number. That was it. No real follow-up. We still needed groceries, but I couldn't bring myself to finish the list. I held Ruby's hand the whole way to the car. She didn't argue. Not once. That night, I made her mac and cheese, her comfort food, and sat with her at the table. We talked about what happened. I explained that not everyone who smiles is safe. That sometimes people ask kids questions because they're hoping the parents aren't around. She asked if the man was trying to kidnap her. I said I didn't know. And I didn't. That's what made it worse. He didn't look creepy. He didn't lurch at her or grab her hand. He looked normal, approachable, like someone's uncle. That's what scared me most. I talked to the principal at school a few days later, suggested we do another stranger danger seminar before fall. I started bringing Ruby into every aisle with me. No more wandering, not even for 5 minutes. She's good about it. She understands now, more than I wish she did. I think about that man more than I care to admit. How casual he was, how confident, like he'd done it before, like he knew exactly how to make a kid trust him, just enough. Nothing happened that day, but it could have, and the only reason it didn't was because I came around the corner in time. Sometimes I lie awake replaying that moment, because if I'd taken a minute longer, if I hadn't heard her talking, what then? This happened in June of 2020, back when things still felt weird because of COVID, but stores had opened back up again. At the time, I was working security for a warehouse. Even with everything shut down, security didn't stop. If anything, we were busier. Places still needed eyes on them, and I'd been pulling doubles more often than not, even during the worst of it. I just finished a long shift at the warehouse, 10 hours on my feet in steel-toe boots and a sweat-stained uniform. I was beat. On the way home, I stopped at the Walmart on Rosedale Highway. I needed deodorant, body wash, and a new phone charger because mine had finally crapped out. It was around 6:30 p.m. Not too busy, not totally dead either. I parked closer to the garden center entrance since it's usually quieter on that side. Still had my badge clipped to my shirt and the back of my hair tied up in a messy twist from work. I looked tired because I was. As I walked up, there was a man standing near the cart returned by the entrance. Mid-50s maybe. Clean polo shirt, jeans, average build. He nodded at me and held out a cart. "Welcome in. Can I help you find anything?" I said no thanks and grabbed the cart. I figured he was a greeter. They rotate people at different entrances sometimes. But there was no name tag. No vest. Nothing official. I pushed the cart inside, expecting him to stay behind. He didn't. He followed me in. Not right on my heels, but close enough that I could feel it. I turned down the pharmacy aisle, and he came right behind me. Didn't grab anything. Just kept pace. I stopped at the end cap with the travel size items and looked at him. He said, casual as anything, "Lost and found's out by my car if you dropped something." I blinked. "What?" He repeated it. "Lost and found's out by my car. You sure you didn't drop your phone?" That's when I really looked at him. Still no badge, no walkie, not even a clipboard. I asked, "Do you work here?" He gave a little shrug. "I help out. Just trying to be helpful." Helpful? By inviting me to his car? I wasn't in the mood for games. I said I didn't drop anything, turned my cart, and walked fast toward customer service. That's my go-to when something feels off. Just head toward more people. He didn't follow me directly this time. I think he realized I was onto him, but I didn't forget his face. I grabbed the body wash and deodorant quick and skipped the charger. When I got to the front of the store, I noticed him again, standing near the exit next to the red box machine like he was waiting for someone. But his eyes kept drifting to the glass doors, like he was watching the parking lot, watching for me. I stayed back, pretended to check prices on earbuds. I didn't want to walk out there if he was going to try something again. I'd seen enough stories on Reddit to know how these things can go. I went up to a young employee wiping down carts and asked if that guy was new staff or something. The kid looked at him, then back at me and said, "He doesn't work here." I nodded and told him what had happened. Within a couple minutes, a woman in a real Walmart vest and earpiece came over. Security, or a manager maybe. I explained again. She didn't say much, just nodded and walked toward the front doors. I trailed behind her but stayed far enough back to look like I wasn't involved. By the time she got to the exit, he was gone. They offered to walk me to my car, and I took them up on it. We didn't see him in the parking lot. I didn't file a police report. Didn't seem like there was much to say. He hadn't touched me. He hadn't stolen anything. He just asked if I dropped something and wanted me to follow him to his car. I switched to a different Walmart after that. Started shopping earlier in the day, and now I keep pepper spray on my key ring. It's not about paranoia, it's just about being ready. This happened in the summer of 2019. I'd been on the road for about 9 hours already and needed to grab a few things before parking overnight. I'm a long-haul trucker, been doing it almost 2 decades. And if there's one thing you learn fast, it's how to spot trouble, mechanical or otherwise. I stopped at a Walmart on the edge of Joliet, Illinois. I'd been there a few times before, usually to grab Gatorade, jerky, or whatever I forgot to pack in my cooler. That day, I needed a couple of toiletries, ice packs, and some snacks to get me through the next leg. Parked the rig at the edge of the lot, hauled myself out of the cab, stretched my back, and went in through the main entrance. Inside, it was the usual chaos. Bright lights, half-stocked shelves, someone arguing on speakerphone 2 aisles away. 15 minutes in, I had everything I needed. Mini cooler, 2 6-packs of Gatorade, pack of beef jerky, shaving cream, and a pair of cheap sunglasses. I knew I'd break in 2 days. I just wanted to pay and get back on the road. Didn't work out that way. I was heading toward the self-checkout, cart half full, when 2 guys stepped out from the side near the bottled water end cap. They weren't wearing Walmart uniforms. Both were in solid-colored polos, one red, the other navy. Jeans, work boots. Looked like regular customers, honestly. Until one of them held his hand up like a crossing guard. "Sir, we're with loss prevention. Need to do a quick bag check before you exit." I stopped. They weren't aggressive, didn't raise their voices, but they weren't smiling either. Just businesslike. The one who spoke nodded toward my cart. Mind stepping aside for a moment? I looked them over again. No name tags, no radios, nothing to tell me they were anything but 2 guys who knew how to act confident. So I said, "Let me see some ID." The second guy, taller, quiet, just tilted his head. The first one said, "It's just a routine check, sir. You're not in trouble. We just need a quick word in the back." That sentence, "in the back," set something off in me. I've heard stories. Women pulled into side hallways, people mugged behind buildings. I said, flat as I could, "Then call a manager." Neither of them liked that. The taller guy sighed and looked around like I was being difficult. The talker gave me this half smile and said, "Look, we're trying to keep this quiet. Let's not make it a thing." I didn't move. I didn't raise my voice. I just repeated, "Call a manager." And I think that's when they realized I wasn't going to play along, because the talker looked past me. Then suddenly both of them turned. Just like that. Walked away. Fast, but not running. Straight toward the exit near customer service. That's when I saw a real Walmart employee coming down the aisle. Vest, earpiece, clipboard in hand. I pointed after them and said, "Those guys just claimed they were security. Tried to pull me aside." She didn't ask questions. Just turned on her radio and called someone. I followed her to the front of the store while she radioed for help. By the time we got to the front doors, the two men were nowhere in sight. Security checked the lot, but it was full of people coming and going. No one could say for sure where they went. No vehicle, no confrontation, just disappeared. I gave a full statement at the front desk. Real security said it wasn't the first time something like that had happened. Someone pretends to be store security, corners shoppers near the exits, and tries to lure them away, out of sight. Sometimes they aim for people who look distracted. Sometimes they aim for people who look alone. Here's my guess. They saw a guy shopping solo. Big guy, older, tired. Figured they could make up a reason to pull me somewhere and either try to rob me or worse. It wasn't about shoplifting. They didn't check my bag. They didn't ask what I bought. They didn't care. They just wanted me off the floor and into some corner where no one would be watching. I've been on the road long enough to recognize when someone's testing your reactions. They were watching how fast I'd comply, how easily I'd give in. Since then, I've kept my wallet in my front pocket and my folding knife on me when I go into big stores. I'm not a paranoid guy, but I'm not stupid either. And if someone asks to check your stuff without a vest, a badge, or an earpiece, you walk the other way, straight to a cashier, a manager, anyone with a name tag. Because real security doesn't walk up to you in jeans and try to escort you out of sight. They didn't yell, they didn't threaten, they just acted like they belonged. They didn't care if people saw them. That's how confident they were it would work. It was a little after 6:30 p.m. in early October, and I'd stopped at Walmart on the east side of Madison before heading in for my shift at the hospital. I work nights, 7 to 7, which means my pre-work morning routine happens when most people are getting ready for dinner. I wasn't there for anything exciting. A box of granola bars, hair ties, a couple of travel-sized shampoos for the emergency bag I keep in my locker. I'd been running behind, so I hadn't had time to stop at home after the gym, and I still needed to change into my scrubs. As I was heading toward the checkout, I realized I needed to pee. Not urgently, but I knew if I didn't go then, I'd regret it an hour into my shift. So, I looped around toward the front restrooms, the ones near the customer service desk. It was one of those fluorescent lit bathrooms with pale tile floors and the kind of beige paint that always feels like it came from a government catalog. Nobody else was in there when I walked in. I picked the second stall from the end, set my little basket on the hook, and sat down. I remember scrolling through my texts while I sat there. My husband had sent me a stupid meme about ER nurses drinking more caffeine than engine oil, and I just replied when I heard the door open. Footsteps. Heeled boots. The sound stopped near the sinks. I assumed someone else had walked in and was either checking their hair or washing their hands, but the water didn't run. The paper towel dispenser didn't go off. No stall doors opened. Just silence. I didn't give it much thought at the time. Maybe they were waiting for a stall. Maybe on a call. But then, a minute passed. Then 2. Still no movement. No cough. No shuffle. No second pair of footsteps. Just that same presence standing there. Right by the door. I waited. Still nothing. At that point, I stopped scrolling. Set my phone down. I started listening. Not with curiosity, but with full attention. You work in a hospital long enough, you learn to trust when something feels off. This wasn't someone being polite. It wasn't someone taking their time. It was too quiet, too still. I slowly leaned forward and peered under the stall wall. Boots, pointed black boots, sturdy. She wasn't in front of the sinks. She was by the wall near the door, feet facing straight ahead, straight toward the stalls. She was just standing there, facing the stalls. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't about to open the door. I couldn't tell if she had a weapon. She hadn't said a word. I waited longer, checked the time. Nearly 10 minutes had passed. 10 minutes of someone just standing in a bathroom, not moving, not speaking. I texted my husband. In a weird situation, woman in Walmart bathroom, just standing by the door, not moving. He called me immediately. I answered, whispering, "Don't say my name," I told him. "Just stay on the line." That's when I heard it. Finally. The click of a boot turning slightly, then the softest creak. The door opened. Just enough that I could hear it swing inward, then close again. No footsteps. I waited a few seconds, then leaned down again. She was gone. I stayed in the stall for 2 more minutes, phone pressed to my ear, listening to my husband ask if I was okay. Then I finally stepped out. Bathroom was empty. I walked straight to customer service, told the woman there what had happened. She nodded like she'd heard stranger things, asked if I wanted her to call a manager. A few minutes later, security came by. I explained it all. They checked cameras. Nothing unusual. The security guard said, "It's possible she was waiting for someone. Could have been confused." Sure. Maybe. But I don't think so. She never said a word, didn't knock on the stall, didn't ask if anyone was in there. She didn't even look in the mirror. Just stood and waited. And the second I spoke to someone, when she heard a man's voice through the stall door, that's when she left. No words. No apology. Just gone. Since then, I check every public bathroom before I walk in. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I do. I look under the stalls. I listen, because that wasn't someone lost. That wasn't someone waiting their turn. That was someone who walked in with a reason and left when that reason changed. I don't know what she wanted, but I wasn't supposed to have company. It wasn't the standing still that scared me. It was the intention. She wasn't confused. She wasn't nervous. She came in, stood by the door, and waited. And when she realized I wasn't alone, she disappeared. If you've ever felt weird vibes in a public place, trusted your gut and got out of there, good. These 5 stories prove that even the most crowded places can leave you completely alone. Smash that like, hit subscribe, and comment below if you've ever had a moment that just didn't feel right. And before you pack your bags for a weekend in the sun, click now to watch 4 scary summertime horror stories. Because sometimes the scariest part of summer is who else shows up to the party. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.